We do. I believe we are on. Is there a red box over there?
Yes, sir. I can actually see my red box.
Mine is very faint. It's there.
Yours is a guess. Great.
Please kindly do the...
No, I did it last time. This is your honor. It'd be so funny in post if you actually stuff it up because you've been so clever.
Hopefully I'm able to figure this out. Without the software. I shared like the link to that like software that's no longer running in the last one.
Nice. I need to actually look at the link, see what it's about.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about this already, but I think it's worth talking about on the podcast.
Yep.
Last week, I joined you for 2 shoots, and I didn't realize how good you are at what you do. I knew you were good. I've always thought, oh, Eugene, he knows what he's doing. And then we went on these shoots, and I was blown away by how little I underestimated, like how much I underestimated you. You were phenomenal.
I think you're being entirely too complimentary, and I feel very uncomfortable.
Good.
But
I'm glad you feel uncomfortable.
I just feel like we were just like in a storm of things that were just like happening to us, and we were just figuring it out on the spot. That's what it felt like to me. But I'm very happy to hear that you were so impressed by it, but I'm not that impressed by myself at all.
I felt like a kindergarten student watching an algebra professor with 1,300 students like solving complex equations. You were absolutely outstanding. And so the fact that you felt I don't know if you felt overwhelmed, but you were absolutely overwhelmed with just the volume of work, but then the quality as well. It was a very high pressure situation. And then the way that you handled that was probably on a par with your skill level of how you were actually able to capture those images that you did, which straight out of camera belong on magazines, like no editing. I was shocked at how amazing they were. And then keeping your cool with the demands that were being put on you, and then just the length of time that they just kept on coming. Most people, and absolutely including myself, would have popped the vein, would have started crying and tantruming in the corner, would have run out. And the way you just kept cool was superb.
I just don't think there's any other option in these situations. Like this is the job. Thank you for having such kind and nice words about it. But I'm starting to understand, like, okay, maybe that's why I'm so patient.
Is that you put in those situations and you learn.
I'm just used to so much, I guess, judging by what you're saying.
Honestly, I was in the position just to learn, just to watch, just to observe what you do. So I was a tourist, so I didn't really have a lot of pressure on me.
And you enjoyed that, right? That's usually not your position, right?
Yes.
You're usually in that responsibility chair.
Yes, exactly. So I've got a handle on roughly on the degree of pressure that you're under, but I've very rarely ever come into the degree of pressure that you were under. But I know what it is, and just as a tourist, I was like, oh no, oh no. And you just handled it like a boss. You were superb. And what a lot of people do is they may not overtly throw a tantrum and go, I'm out of here, screw you guys. What they do is they subtly put the brakes on. They have a little attitude. They speak out of the side of their mouth. They roll their eyes when the other person isn't looking. They just slowly make the atmosphere difficult. That's how most people tantrum. And you didn't do that at all. You were thanking people by the end. I mean, you're thanking them the whole way through, but even at the end, you were still thanking them for, oh, thank you for the opportunity, for letting me take these great photos. And it was like 8 p.m. and you were supposed to finish at 4 or 6 or whatever. And I was just inside. I was just laughing. I was saying, E.G., it's like Jesus, and then E.G.'s just behind Jesus. No. It's like if Jesus can walk on water, E.G.'s right there, right with him.
No, but I mean, honestly though, let's not
you were very calm.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But honestly, like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
that's the only thing that you can do. Just be there, be all there, and it's a sprint. I don't think I could do this for days on out. Many days. I look at it, this is a focused sprint.
Yeah.
I need to be good for this window of time.
And you were.
And after that, I could be the worst person in the world.
Well, the thing is, the next day you went into a completely different atmosphere, completely different shoot, but also a little chaotic. And not because of you, just the situation that you're in. And so you had to change gears overnight, which I was also impressed with, just the way you were able to adapt, and you didn't carry over the baggage from the previous day into the new day, and you just handled that like a boss. No, you were very impressive, E.G. Very, very impressive. I learned a lot in the moment. And you're saying I don't have a choice. I think most people do choose, I think all of us do choose the amount of pressure we can stand up under. And you've just got a greater capacity, or at least, let's be kind to everyone, you have accessed a greater capacity than most people have accessed. I think all of us sabotage at some point. We go, okay, this is too much. I'm going to freak out here. I'm going to quit here. I'm not going to turn up at this level. And you've just gone beyond what most people have gone beyond.
I think maybe like this is like just conditioning. Like I've done this for so long, and like just gradually I've increased my patience or something. But like, and I think it's if you just decide something, and if you're just like very focusedly intent on just maintaining like a certain attitude or position, like you can, if you just decide to.
I agree, but to see it in action was awesome. It was amazing.
I was very happy that you were able to join, and really thankful for your help. Like, you know, you may have felt useless, but I was. Like those little moments or those little times where you're like, you could foresee there was like an issue, and like I didn't ask you to solve it. I just had to jump on something else. And then I looked back, and you were already trying to fix that thing
but
that
couldn't.
I didn't ask you. No, but I mean, it got resolved. But like you were thinking ahead. That's what I'm saying. Like most people don't do that. Like they don't foresee a problem and try to see that through or fix it unless they're specifically asked to.
Yes.
You took the initiative to do that. And I'm just saying, I noticed that, and that is not common.
I try and do that, but I felt so inadequate. I felt like such a noob in the situation. I didn't know how to anticipate the next thing. And so I was very humbled in the situation, because you knew every element of what your responsibility is, because you've been a one-man show for how many years? 10, 12?
Something like that. I don't know exactly.
So you know every element, and you've selected processes and equipment and the way to do things on purpose. It's not accidental that you just arrived. And so I came in not knowing your setup, not knowing how you work. I wouldn't even know how I would work. It's not even like a difference of opinion. It's just I have no alphabet to even put together a choice of words. And so I just felt like a complete noob. I felt useless, and I tried the best to help in whatever I could, but I wasn't just truthfully, I wasn't that much help.
You were, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it was just like that little, like, you know, being able to change things quickly. Like, you know, when we were changing like the light or moving the light or changing the background, moving things around, like those little things, those time savers, they stack up.
Yeah.
And we were in dire need for extra time.
Yeah.
And you made that happen. Like you helped make things go quicker and more smooth and more efficient. Yeah. So that really truly did help.
I shaved like 3 minutes off a 12-hour day.
3 minutes times like a bunch of times. It was like many times, because normally I would have had to stand up and do it myself.
I can imagine.
So this was like more than you imagine useful for me.
Yeah, no, I think having that sort of assistant would be more useful. And if I was going to continue doing that, the things I would do to make your life significantly easier, if I could, would be get there earlier than you, carry the equipment for you, set it up so that you can just walk into the room, set up your own camera, and have roughly an idea of what you wanted to do, and then have some redundancy. So if I assumed you wanted 3 lights set up, that I might have 3 lights set up, but an extra stand just in case you need. I would have things ordered in the corner. That's how I try and add value. Make sure you've got water on the side. I didn't know where the water was in that particular place. Try and order those sort of things. Probably liaise with the contacts before you do, so that they have a chance to communicate that they don't know what they're doing, so that the first time they realize that when they're talking to you, it now becomes the second time, and maybe it's a bit ordered.
Right.
You know, that's the way I would try and add value. But creatively, man, your work is disgustingly good. Like,
thank you so much,
the
man.
photos you were taking, people were audibly gasping. They're like, oh, some of the shots you did were outstanding.
Thank
A lot
you,
of them were
man.
just really shit, but no, not at all, not at all. Even like the ones that are like they're throwaway because the focus isn't quite on, or they don't like the angle or whatever. Even those were really good. But in particular, that girl with the butterfly,
Yeah.
and the lines that you were able to do with the light, it was shockingly good. Like I was blown away by the quality of work.
That light beam is a lot of fun to play with.
Man, it's so good. It's so good. So
Please stop showering me with compliments. I feel incredibly uncomfortable with
considering you're such a bad person, I got to give you. You got to balance it out.
Yeah, it kind of counters out all the issues that I'm lugging around all the time.
The other thing that amazed me was the amount of time that you spent on light versus composition. Now, you did have composition, but most of the time was spent tweaking light. And the first thing you do, at least to my eye, please correct me if I'm wrong, is you get the light right, you get this, you set the levels, even your test shots, it's all about light. Yeah. And then once you've dialed that in, then you spend a little bit of time framing your shot, and it's almost like that's secondary. Right. Is that a correct assessment?
Or maybe I'm just like faster in figuring out the composition because I do that really quickly just because I can just sense it and feel it.
Okay.
But the light, like I noticed, particularly in the beginning of my career, when I was starting out, I would have wanted things to be differently. Maybe there was like an off frame or like accidental, the light wasn't, shining the right way or something. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. But I didn't notice that on the spot. And that got me thinking, you know what? I can save a lot of things in editing. I could make up for things, and I can even create like the mood and set things up like really in editing. But it got me thinking, like, I should really do as much as humanly possible here, right now. And then I always have the option to carry things through or do a different expression in the editing after. But like you can't do a reshoot. Like now is like, it's worth it spending extra 5 minutes on the light rather than just shooting options. Like, you have 100 more options for positions, but like I would rather shoot like 30 images rather than shoot 100 and have the lights like really spent the extra time just getting it the right way, because that's really the most look or mood that you're putting into the shot. That's the lighting, I think.
That's the one question I was going to ask you today that I saved up, is that little light beam that you can control the focus of and the length and angles. Surely in post, you could select an area and brighten that and then feather that out and create a similar effect.
But the shadows, it depends on the angle of the beam. It depends on the sharpness of the beam. And the shadowy areas of the face or the products, they won't be exactly the same.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could like help it a little bit, but you can't really create it convincingly, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because it was such a unassuming piece. Like, you've got all these fancy photo lights and backdrops and all the rest, and then you've got this one edition that you've mentioned it to me before, but I've never seen it in action. So I didn't really understand what it was doing. And then in the moment when you're shaping that light, it looks pretty bad because your photo lights haven't taken a fuller image. So sometimes it's a bit like contrasty. And then you snap that thing and you look at the finished product. Unbelievable. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's
taken me 1.5 years since I got this light, or maybe even 2, to kind of fully incorporate it into I've been experimenting with it and figuring it out, and it's like, oh, it's not really working here. I'm not sure I'm going to use it. It's taken me a little bit of while to kind of fully understand how it works for me, how I can employ it. But now I want another one because it's this one is not powerful enough. I'd really like this stronger one, and it would be nice if I could just flash, because this is a constant. This is a video light.
Right.
I don't think this device exactly exists for for photo. Not in the lighting system that I have at least. So yeah, I'm thinking about buying another one, but it's humongous if I need to get another one, and I'm not sure I want to lug more gear on. I already feel like I'm such an administrator of gear and equipment, and just like carrying it all over. It takes so much energy setting it up and using it. It's just I almost don't have energy or time to communicate and work with the models or with the people that there's just so much going on. But I having you help really helped free me up to communicate a little bit more than I usually can. Sometimes I'm just constantly dealing. I'm just trying to quickly, what is the feedback? Okay, this is the feedback. Now I need to just rush and try to address it. Instead of now I was able to spend a little bit more time and get a little bit more nuanced feedback or sense for what the client was thinking. So that's like my next big task. I need to be able to manage people and communication a little bit better. But I almost like, ideally, you have an assistant that is a really proficient, great photographer and editor who can kind of put their thing into it, so you're able to kind of manage the situation more.
Yeah,
from behind the camera.
I think if I knew a little bit more, your B-roll might be better, because I took a few B-roll shots, which were probably all terrible.
No, I haven't had a look, but thank you so much for those, by the way.
Yeah, but they're probably terrible. You probably won't be thanking me. But but having, like, let's say my skill level was better and I had the availability and this is where I wanted to go. I wanted to take photos like you take. Then I think that's the perfect symbiotic relationship, because you get an assistant who can maybe increase your output by 10, 20, 30%. Maybe your relationship gets better with the client because you have more time to sit behind a camera and show photos and give options, rather than, please shut up, I've got to go and do this thing. But then the assistant is just gleaning. Like I've taken maybe 100 photos of my whole life through a camera. I play with the video more. I'm still a noob, but I don't know anything about photos. And I learned so much just watching you, just turning knobs and watching you. Is like, what's he doing here? Oh, maybe, is it that? I'm still a noob, but I learned just volumes. So imagine if an assistant came and spent 3 days a week with you, or even 3 shoots a month. They're going to pick up so much knowledge that might have taken you a decade to learn. They might be able to learn it in a year or two. Maybe not to the same level, but it'll accelerate them.
That's definitely, I think, how I learned most of what I know today.
Wow.
I mean, school gets you places. You know, like the theories, you have the fundamentals, like, you have like a really, really wide base.
Yes.
But like, if you take proportionally how much time you spend in the classroom, at least in my case, I'm not going to speak to other cases, in my case, and compared to the experience on the field, like you're mentioning,
right.
I feel like I learned very, very much just by being an assistant.
I think it's just true for most people. I think the school system is designed for a very specific purpose, very generalized. And so because it's generalized, by definition, anything that's specific, it's going to do a poor job, just in terms of ratios.
But I mean, I think it's also like you can't really get too specific with curriculum, right? You need to kind of give people like it's like almost like a foundation for a building.
Right.
Like, you dig the hole, and you put in like the thing to carry the building.
Yep.
And then you have to build a building on top of that yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree. So that's my one criticism.
Yeah.
Of and we joked about this on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever it was that I think at one point you gave me a task to do. You gave me the task, and then you did it yourself right in front of me. And I was inside. I was just laughing because I was thinking, this is classic one-man show. I can do it better than you can. So just shut up and get out of my way. Let me do it.
You said you've done this so many times yourself. So you're like equally as guilty. I don't feel that bad about it.
No, you don't have to feel bad. It was just interesting to be outside of the person who's saying, hey, please, can you help me do this? And then does it.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to. Like, I wasn't even thinking. I was just thinking, like, I just need this to get done now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're under pressure. You got 6 people asking you different questions. And then I felt so bad for you, man, because at one point we went off to go and find a table, which you shouldn't have had to do. I was happy to go and do it, but you're so used to solving problems. And then en route to find the table, the girl who was taking you to find the table started to chat to models, and now you had to introduce yourself to models. And I'm thinking, now EG's 3 layers deep into something he doesn't need to do. And he can't do what no one else can do. And so eventually I interrupted. I was like, hey, EG, I think we need to get that, just to give you an out. But it was hilarious. It was hilarious. I think if you could practice that as a skill of delegation and giving other people that room to serve you, basically, to set up what you need, I think it would accelerate what you're doing. And it gives that person so much room, because they're not carrying the responsibility you're carrying. They're not even carrying maybe 1% of what you're carrying. So it gives them room to learn, to grow, to get a feel for atmospheres and how do you deal with a client. There's a few times you said to me, because I had mentioned a question that maybe I shouldn't have asked in front of that person, but I wasn't aware. And so you instantly gave me feedback. Shut up about that.
Or just later. We can talk about it later.
Yeah. But how do you learn those nuances unless you're in that context, and unless someone's saying, this is the consequence of that? And so I think that again, that master-apprentice relationship is so underrated. You don't get that in a school or a university very often. And I think specifically in this sort of industry, it's very powerful.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And I think you would benefit greatly. Someone who's hungry, someone who's teachable, flexible, but wants to be in that world, I think you would benefit greatly. And I think they would benefit more than you would benefit. So,
I mean, it would be ideally mutual. I think also, particularly in the beginning of a relationship like this, it's for sure more, I'm giving more than I'm receiving.
100%.
For sure.
100%.
But with time, like, you build someone up and there's a rapport and there's an understanding and there's a skill that's being built up.
Yeah.
But the only issue is that I think, like, particularly in Hong Kong, with everyone is so specific to one thing. Like, you could get an assistant that just wants to do beauty shoots. And then you have to find a studio because they aspire to be that kind of photographer or work in that specific area. My issue is that I'm all over the place. I can't do, I get like stuck when people ask me like, what do you do? So I just go to think about, okay, what are the last 3 shoots that I did? But like, really I do everything.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a problem because like it's sometimes a lot for me, but like, I think it's a little bit crazy to ask someone else to jump on that unless they know what they're getting into. And the smart thing to do actually is to hone in and get specific with like one specific area. That's how you get really, really proficient and good at one thing.
If I love photos, but I don't know if I want to do beauty shoots or fashion shoots or whatever, people or animals or whatever products, then this is the perfect opportunity for me because it's a taste of everything.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I think you're probably right most of the time, but I also think there's probably a segment of people who this is perfect for.
Right.
And I know there's a responsibility, and we've spoken about that before, on your end to now give someone work. But I think it's something worth exploring, man, because I think there's some people that could learn so much from you. It would be beneficial to them. And then hopefully over time it becomes a little bit more beneficial to you. And that's always the risk whenever you have staff or teams or businesses. That's always the biggest point of pain is people. But it's also the greatest pleasure because if you get someone who's hungry and flexible and wants to learn and grow, then they're part of a team and they not just joining the winning team, they start to make the team win,
right?
Which is huge, man.
I mean, the companies of the world are based on the people within them. It's
there's nothing else.
100% the people.
Yeah.
So 100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
100%. How is this for you? Because you, like, this is new to me to kind of work with people and introduce people into a situation and try to mix and match like different personalities and abilities and try to align everything into like in an order so that the result is desirable. How is it for you? Because you have like multiple people that you have to organize and get to work together and make sure the machine is running. I mean, how many people are you managing?
Directly?
Yeah.
Probably no one. Probably no one. I because it's a family business, it's odd to answer because we're already a team, whether we do business or not.
Right.
And so there's dynamics that go on with mom and dad and brothers, and that are just age-old dynamics. So a lot of the heads of the different things that we do, it's a family member running that. And so it's not like I have to manage them because it's their business. So I'm sort of like there, sometimes advisory, sometimes just as the punching bag. Sometimes they're the punching bag. And so I've worked hard to work myself out of responsibility. And what we were saying last week is I'm now looking for opportunity to get back into some sort of responsibility. And I've learned some things recently, and I'm in the process of learning some things that hopefully I can build bigger teams that can go further. Very grateful for what we've been part of and been able to do so far. But that would require more management and training and empowering other people. So I'm sort of in no man's land right now. So I don't really manage directly. I mean, I'm responsible for everything, but day to day, I don't do much.
No, but I mean, it's like when you build a machine, and at the beginning, it's like not working properly. You need to like keep tinkering with it.
Everything, yeah.
Now it's working on its own, so you're able to step away. So that's a really good thing to do. You've
Yes.
built a machine that works on its own.
Yes.
Without constantly having to tinker with it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But it's a very small machine, and I'm very grateful for it. It's like it feeds the whole family. We all live really well. We're all happy. We don't have yachts and private planes, which we would probably never have anyway. But we're all comfortable. Everything's sorted.
You would never buy that even if you could afford to.
Yeah, probably never. You never know. You never know. But highly doubtful. But I've also got this hunger in me that wants to grow and learn and develop and torture myself and just try things. Like I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be learning and growing and stretching. And that's precisely one of the reasons why I went and did what I did with you last week. Because there's a part of me that didn't want to. There's a part of me that just wants to be lazy and go, I don't need to do that. I don't need to come and be with you.
Absolutely not.
But I wanted to. And I wanted to be stretched. And I like being the noob in some sick sort of way. and I know you love that because you love pushing weight and running when it's uncomfortable. And I know you broke yourself with jiu-jitsu. And so I think you're more psychotic than I am. But in terms of managing people, nothing at the moment. Or very little, I should say.
But isn't just breaking yourself or testing yourself or like pushing yourself, isn't that kind of just our nature?
Especially as men, but I think it is human nature, yeah. Yeah, you watch kids play and the one kid does something that's a bit accidental and the other kid thinks, I can do that better. And now they're doing the most random actions, but they're out competing each other. It's just natural. It's just how we're built.
It kind of happens without thinking sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just yesterday, I was in the sauna and there was a guy that came into the sauna and he started like, pouring on. I was just like, I decided, okay, I will not leave this room, just in my head, until he leaves. For no reason. I just cooked myself. It is so childish and so stupid. So stupid.
That's so funny. And how did it go?
I didn't leave until he left. But I took a long, good cold shower after.
And do you think secretly he was in his own mind going, I'm going to get this guy out of here?
That was what I was telling myself. And I just like derived energy and pleasure from like, I'm going to break him. I'm going to break him. I'm going to break him. I'm going to break him.
That's so funny.
It's so stupid though.
It's so
funny. It
funny.
is so childlike. What's wrong with me? I'm a nice person. Why?
You're a lovely person. But to have that sort of psychotic, I want to win at all costs, is such a strange counterbalance.
I guess if this is inside me, this is a relatively good way to get it out.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's a wonderful way to get it out.
No one knows it's getting out.
I think 1,000 years ago, you would have been the front Viking running into battle. This is how I get it out.
It's just pillage and rob and kill.
That's so funny. But it is true. The games that we play mentally to outcompete when there's no formal competition, and the other party doesn't even always know that they're in the competition. But that's the way that we play. It's funny. I think particularly males, we do that.
Right.
We do that all. I think women do it in a different way. Maybe they're better at the game than we are, but we do it in a very brutish, blunt way.
I 100% agree. They don't have the physical force element, so they have to be more methodical, technical, political,
Sneaky.
about they have like more. We have more crude leverage.
Yes,
so to speak.
We're much more simple.
I think also just like, from an evolutionary perspective, like let's say 200,000 years ago, if you're a physically weaker party, regardless of gender,
Right.
like you have to develop different tools than force.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Yeah.
So I think probably there's probably some selection that happened in that way.
Maybe. I think. Yeah. I just think it's very, very funny. Very funny. So, as soon as you're traipsing on ground that is tricky in terms of gender and equality, I can't believe you said women aren't as strong as men. I think that is racist. It's homophobic. It's genderist.
Horrible person. I know.
I thought about an idea that I want to present to you on the podcast, where this could get us into a huge trouble. So I'm presenting it to you on an idea that I'm hoping you reject, but I'm presenting it anyway. What we could do is we could take tricky subjects that are hot topics and debate points that are very controversial, and we could take either opposing views just at random, and we have to argue our point and make the best case for it, or we could both take the wrong view and you have to argue the absolute most racist, homophobic, sexist angle on a particular topic, and then I take the next topic and argue, and as if we believe the most terrible things.
I think this is probably within the theme of this podcast. A really
that
bad
is a bad
idea.
idea.
Very bad idea. But I think it could be seriously interesting, especially if you have just like some sort of wheel where you
Yes,
can
it's just
randomly
random.
pick a topic, and then you randomly also pick the position on the spot. So we're not able to prepare for it.
Right.
We just kind of have to figure it out. In this, you know what? That's a great idea.
The only problem with that is if someone, and there's very few people who watch this, but if someone just randomly started to watch it and didn't know and thought we were really advertising some weird position, but we could put disclaimers in red all over the screen. But I thought that might be fun, just as a, because we've been talking about this. We're very boring people. We are not interesting at all.
No, I agree.
And the podcasts that I'm sure you watch and I watch a little bit of, these mostly comedians, they're incredibly interesting. And you can just give them a mic and they don't even need an audience, and they can be so entertaining with their creativity. We're just not that fun.
No. Yeah, I agree.
But we could leverage some of the construct and just have some fun with it.
It could be like a fun challenge. It could be like an interesting experience. It's almost like in Iceland, there's this competition called Morpheus, and it's kind of a debate competition.
Okay.
Where exactly this is happening. So you have like 3 members from each college, and there's a debate point, and there's a position given.
Yes.
And then like I think there's a time they have to prepare for it, and that's just like a competition on how good you're at debating.
Right.
Which is, I think, essentially like a great tool. That's all that lawyers do, right?
True.
And some people are absolutely amazing at this, like really good at this. And not just like factually, also just how you deliver it, how you structure, like storytelling angle. Like that's a really important skill. So the whole reason why, like I know I'm not the center of attention when I'm in a group of people.
Me too.
I know I'm not a great storyteller or great at delivering message through speaking. I know that. But for me, this was an opportunity to address that and try to get better at that.
And dude, last podcast, you carried it, man. You were amazing.
I think you're, again, being way too nice and way too complimentary. You have been carrying this the whole time. in all actuality. But thank you for the encouragement.
That's not true. That is not true.
But I think the argument thing and the spinning topic, we find the topic on a spinning wheel or something. I think that's a great idea.
It could just be some random weird position that you have to try and make sense of, even though probably we won't agree with those things.
And I think,
and it's secret if we do agree, then it's fun to argue a controversial point.
100%.
With a disclaimer.
100%. Can you imagine? We could drizzle in like all kinds of weird things. Like, for instance, if I had to argue for pineapple on pizza, that would be a very difficult position for me, but then I would just have to try to figure it out.
It's so funny you say that, because just before the podcast, you were saying how you can only eat pizza with pineapple on it.
I hate putting fruit on pizza. Why don't we put strawberries on pizza?
Some people do.
They're idiots.
I saw there's some streamers I watch, and they're in Austin, Texas, and they went to a truck stop that does donuts. And on one of the donuts, which is one of their most popular donuts they sell, they put bacon on it. Bacon and strawberries on a donut.
I mean, bacon makes everything better, though.
That's true. But I've never seen it on a donut. No. Weird. Yeah. So I know Americans eat pancakes with bacon and strawberries, I think. So maybe for them it's not that weird.
Can you imagine? You could take like bacon sprinkle and put it on literally anything. You could put it on ice cream.
That's interesting. Hey, next podcast.
Bacon sprinkles on ice cream. Yeah, let's do that. Let's have that prepared.
Bacon sprinkles and racist ideas.
I thought you were about to say raisins, but sure. Racist ideas.
Why women are pathetic and why we don't need them. No, I think it would be fun just to get some random elements that are a little bit chaotic. And then we can just delete them all and never present them to anyone. No,
that's a great idea. We could just ask our friends and people around us, like, topic of contention or something that they feel strong about. Anything from pizza toppings to like bigger things. Just anything.
Absolutely.
Except politics.
Except local politics. Personally, and I think you're the same, but correct me if I'm wrong, I always avoid controversial things. So for example, a controversial topic in all the right-wing and left-wing media outlets these days is the transphobic type ideas. Mm-hmm. What's allowed, what's good, what's gender, and all of that stuff. And so personally, I almost never will mention that to anybody. Right. Like whatever my position is or their position, I don't know what most people's position is in real life.
Right.
I just don't go there, because it's not worth for such a, even this is going to be controversial, I'm aware of it, but even such a fringe issue, because so few people would identify as that. At least in our world, I don't know if you know anyone who's like that. I know one person who was trans.
Yeah, I know a person that's going through this phase,
this transition.
Like transitioning.
So whatever your perspective is, it's like one out of hundreds of people that you know, right? So I don't mean it in terms of it's not important. What I mean is, it's not an everyday thing.
No. But I think everyone has it kind of like on their periphery.
Yes.
I mean, now that I think about it even more, I used to go to grade school with someone who is now transitioned to a man.
Okay.
And this was like, this happened like maybe 15 years ago, where this person added me and I recognized the face, but not the name or the gender. So I just found out, like, fully just through a Facebook request.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who has, I don't know anyone, at least to my knowledge, that I've known in the transition, but I've known people who have transitioned and then met them. So yeah, that sort of topic, I would be so sensitive, so careful. I'm not looking to start any fires, make any trouble, or, I'm not trying to hurt anyone or But if
we're supposed to get, like, you're supposed to have this opinion, yes. Then you bring that to the table, and I'm supposed to have an opposing.
Yeah.
Then, like, then we kind of, I don't know, Would it kill it to have like a neutral discussion after the fact?
Maybe.
Yeah, that would kind of make it useless, right?
Maybe because the intention is to defend the indefensible.
Right.
So maybe even having opposing views wouldn't work because then one of us would look right and the other one would look wrong. Clearly,
Not if
maybe
it's at random.
Yeah, maybe we can figure it. We can try it.
I could look like an idiot every now and again, and then you as well. So
I will be right every time, no matter what the opinion is.
could have like a vote, like who was the idiot in this discussion, and then you have vote.
Some of the most funny comedy bits are bits where someone will weave in a very controversial idea. The most famous one in my mind is Louis C.K. talking about pedophilia,
Right.
with the Snickers bar.
Untouchable subject.
Yeah, but then the way that he clarifies his position and then makes an analogy to something else and then brings in the humor, it's so funny because you know it's wrong.
Right.
He knows it's wrong. We all know it's wrong, but he's like just playing on those lines.
Right.
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
I mean, he is so good at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, he takes you right to the edge. Like, you kind of like he's just dragging you along. You're following him, and it just feels so uncomfortable. You have no idea where this is going.
But it's hilarious.
Yeah. But I think it's like you get put on edge. You're like, oh no, what's happening? And then like he takes you for a loop and like surprises you with something, and then you laugh.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of part of comedy to kind of the element of unknown and to put you into an uncomfortable mindset or position. I think that's a huge part of comedy.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. In fact, people who are just playing it safe in terms of their topic, they then have to be extreme in some other angle. Otherwise, it's just mundane, boring conversation.
Right.
How's the weather? But you have to introduce some weird angle in order for it to be engaging. I think CK is one of the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe him and Chappelle, and there's very few others that can do that.
Right.
At that level, I think. Who is your favorite comedian?
I have many that I really, really like. I think it's just like flavors of ice cream. I mean, I love ice cream. It's just like, oh, there's another one. Oh, great.
Okay.
I love this show called Kill Tony. Have you? Do you know about that show?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Do you watch it, or have you?
Not
just
really.
seen
I
it
watch
on-
clips. I
Okay,
watch
okay.
clips, yeah.
So I've been watching, and I've seen this kid come up. His name is Hans Kim, and he randomly got pulled out of the bucket, and now he is opening shows up for Joe Rogan and on tour and opening stadiums
Wow.
and standing in front of 20,000 people regularly. He lived in a van when he got pulled out of
Is
that
that
hat.
the Asian young man?
That's right.
Very good looking, very articulate.
Yeah, he has a glasses.
I know who
He's
you,
South
actually, I
Korean.
do know who you mean. Yeah.
And another guy that I love from that show is William Montgomery. He's this weird guy that has like he's ginger and he's like he's bald and has this great big beard, and he likes to read jokes out of notes,
Okay.
and like he often has notes. The last time he showed up, he was opening up fortune cookies and pulling out the jokes from fortune cookies. He's just so silly, and
Okay.
he has such weird ideas and takes and his candor and everything. That musician that before we started recording that I mentioned to you, Aphex Twin, he has a series of making Aphex Twin jokes that no one understands. So he just makes it a point. I'm just going to make an Aphex Twin joke that no one connects to. That's like a recurring theme. I love how quirky and weird he is. I don't have any particular favorites.
You love that.
I love every comedian that's halfway decent at what they do.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah. How about you? Do you have any favorites at the moment?
I don't. It was a stupid question for me to ask because whilst I don't know as much as you, and I don't, I probably don't. Yeah, I probably don't watch as much as you. I don't have a favorite. I love the CK and the Chappelles, and I think Rogan's great. But I probably watch more podcasts than I do comedy shows, and so I love. I've been watching a lot of Bad Friends. with Santino and Bobby Lee. They are just genius. I was crying with laughter the other day because, and this is an old clip, but they all bought Santino some gifts, and Bobby Lee didn't know about it, and it was all a big scam, but he didn't know that it was a scam. It was absolutely hilarious, and the way they made him feel bad, and just, I just think that they're genius. And the way that they're able to do that just in the moment, just off the cuff, is phenomenal. It's a real skill, man.
It is.
I mean, yeah. It's no wonder they're useless in every other element of their lives, but they're just genius in this one thing. It's not always true, but yeah.
It's almost like they're able to kind of take their flaws and their failures and just mishaps, really, or like unfortunate circumstances or experiences in life, and just leverage into something amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby Lee famously has some super sensitive topics and awful things that he's gone through as a kid.
Yeah.
That's just like a huge base of all his comedy and where he comes from. He's just like, this is who I am, this is how I am. And it just works. It works so well. I think also a big part of it is that he is genuine. And what he's talking about is genuine. Of course, they make up some stories, but like in general, like their perspective and basis,
It's who he is.
genuine.
Yeah.
It's true. And I think that's a really, really difficult thing to do in life. And I think it's a very admirable trait. And I think that's maybe part of the reason why we're inherently just naturally drawn to comedy, because it's like we admire the bravery of just standing there in front of everyone and just putting out these wild, weird ideas and telling these incredibly uncomfortable stories and experiences that you've been through. And you're just having a laugh about it. You're digesting and going through things in a really admirable way.
Yeah.
And people are enjoying it.
I think they're sometimes also living vicariously through your story, and they might not have been able to express, articulate, or process their stuff. And so when you're able to the comedian is able to go through their extreme experience, maybe it's a little bit cathartic for the listener too. They go, yeah, I've identified with that crazy thought or emotion, or yeah, I had something similar happen. And then the process of that is freeing for that person.
Right.
Because people listen to comedy a lot. They spend a lot of time and sometimes money going to those sort of shows. And it's not because it's nothing. It's because there's actually a valuable experience out of it.
Yeah.
So it's not just mindless. Out of all the art forms, it might be, no, maybe I'm wrong. I was going to say it might be the most popular, but music is the most popular.
No, but I mean, it's a different thing. Like, music it can pick you up for a few minutes here and there, but like, this is like a different thing.
Yeah.
I think it's along the same lines. I honestly think it's along the same lines.
Yeah.
It has the same effect. It kind of breaks the tension of whatever you're going through.
Yes.
Or whatever's happening. It kind of just pulls you out of whatever you have burdened yourself with or what you're going through.
Exactly, yeah. Or it captures that moment, and so in the future you can come back to that thing. Yeah, it's very powerful, very powerful. I'm such a bland, boring person that I've never valued the arts, painting and sculptures and music. I don't even listen to a lot of music. But I will say in the last maybe 3 years, I've started to appreciate it a little bit more, mainly because of Jordan Peterson. Him saying, hey man, art's important. And so I've put a lot more effort into trying to appreciate those things more.
Before, why is it that you think that wasn't kind of valued for you? Do you have any thoughts on why that was? And like, Jordan Peterson obviously introduced you to being open to it.
Yes.
But before that, do you have any theories on why it didn't speak to you?
Maybe because I did maths at uni and I'm a boring person. So I just thought it was like extracurricular. And I thought, let's make the main thing the main thing. Let's focus on what's important. And that's just for the crazies. I never turned my head towards it. But in the last couple of years, because of influences like Jordan Peterson and others, I've gone, okay, well, I can identify with the emotion that they're referencing a little bit. So that's opened the door a touch. And then I've explored, not to a great degree, but just more than previously, some of those avenues, and have agreed, yeah, this is important, this is valuable. And if you look at any great resurgence of a nation or a culture, it's always centered around art. So I think Jordan Peterson said, art is the canary in the coal mine. And I know you probably know that reference, that they'd take the canaries down the coal mine, and if there's any leaking gases, they'd stop tweeting, and that was a sign that they all should get out. And so he's saying when art starts to get confined and restricted, that's a problem. So I'm sure you've seen on podcasts, he'll go and speak to you and say, you need to keep on speaking, and this is important. It's not just frivolous fun. You're the canary in the coal mine. So, yeah, when you got someone as serious as that saying that art is important,
Right. Yeah, no, that's
you
a
listen,
very good
you
point.
agree.
Yeah,
He's
for
much
sure.
cleverer than most of us.
I mean, I think he even intentionally uses like very big words to just like lean in even more. I sometimes, he is incredibly smart.
Yes.
But I suspect that he intentionally uses words to
Maybe.
even further that point.
Maybe the gravity of what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I've also, socially he's very intelligent. So I've watched him on different podcasts where he will dumb down, and not dumb down, that's maybe a harsh way of saying it, but he'll lower that depth of language to communicate with someone.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's absolutely amazing. I've seen so many discussions where people feel so confident. Like they're challenging him on a point and they're like really going hard after him. And he's just sitting there and just being super, just factually dry, really, but like very methodical. And he's just slamming people and they don't even know it. They're so caught up in their argument and what they're doing. They get a response from him and they don't even have a counterpoint. They don't understand what he just said.
Yeah.
But like once you like from our perspective, once we have like time to watch it maybe a few times or like and have a few different angles on it, it's amazing to see how intelligent that man is.
Yeah.
He's so good.
I'm so grateful for him and people like him, because some people are so ideologically driven and so passionate that it takes time to unpick their ideas, because just because you're driven ideologically doesn't mean you're right. And it needs to be counted and balanced and sharpened maybe. And people like him, that's what they're born to do. They're born these crazy ideas that seem so good on the outside, but actually driven by death. He'll come in and unpick it just straight down the line. And you're like, oh man, I could never do what you're doing, but I'm so grateful that you're doing it.
Right.
So yeah, I've been very appreciative of his stuff. And
I'm just thinking now. Sorry, I'm going back to the art thing a little bit. Like, why it is so important and why like it is so connected to civilizations that have done like great things. And it just goes to like, thinking when you're trying to come up with an idea or doing something different. I feel like, very creative people, they're always questioning the status quo a little bit. Like they're like, is there a way, like this works great, this is beautiful, this is great, but is there a way to do it differently? Most of the time the answer is no. But every now and again you hit like some specific angle and it's just like a breakthrough moment. And I think as a society and just as a nations, you need to be very experimental. You need to be able to just throw stuff at the wall, even though most of it doesn't stick.
Yep.
Every now and again, you got to be brave enough and confident enough to throw idea number 97 at the wall. None of the other ones have worked, but you need to be optimistic enough to keep trying.
Yep.
And then every once in a while, it's just like, boom, there's a breakthrough moment. I mean, who would have thought like in 1999 or 98, opening up an online bookstore selling books that are dying out would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good idea, but it transitioned.
That's right.
It translated to something like one of the biggest things that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So I think that attitude, I think it's really, really important.
Absolutely. I think you need those different forces. It's the yin and the yang and the male and the female. You need the majority, because I dislike the majority. I hate the status quo. I really hate it. But you need the mainstay to be the mainstay because it balances that 10% of people who are crazy. But you need that 10% to balance the 90, because sometimes the 90% will just march straight off the cliff because everyone else is marching off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And that 10% are able to go, hey, there's a cliff here. You guys are, you need to come this way. And it was so interesting. I watched Elon Musk address the World Government Forum or something that happened recently. And this is like, everyone, let's unite. We got to go on the same page, get everyone on the same systems, because this is going to be good for the planet. And they invite Elon Musk, and he says, you know, collaboration is good, but you got to be careful, because in history, there have been civilizations that have risen and civilizations that have fallen simultaneously. And if it were not for the civilizations that rose because of their independence, nobody would exist today. And so his point was, good to collaborate, but make sure you don't unify too much, because we need differing parties. We need these different factions that push and pull against each other for the global good. Right. And I thought that was so insightful, and the balls on him to be addressing the world's most powerful leaders all in one room and to say what he said. Crazy.
That's incredibly big picture. I mean, he's just zooming way out. He's on
Yes,
the moon. And
like
just,
another planet.
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
He's just like looking at the whole bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I mean, to have that ability is kind of rare.
It's extreme. He's the 1% of the 1%.
And to do that at that forum in front of everyone is like incredibly brave too.
Man, the balls on him. He's amazing. And yeah, so I love those tension forces. I think you're right. And because I've always looked at people who are the extremes as crazy, I've always gone, it's not important. But man, it's so vitally important. I remember being a 19-year-old at university, being very leftist, hating this corporation and this thing. And then as I've grown older, I've veered more towards the right and being, free market and capitalism and, all of those sort of things. And in the last maybe year or 2 years, I've come back to a balanced view, I think. I was never extreme in any of those, but that would sort of be my bias. And now I'm like, no, you need both those forces. You absolutely need the crazies on the left who want to break everything, and you need the mainstay on the right who keep everything working and don't change the status quo. You need both of those things. So yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you.
I'm watching this. It's an old TV series, but it's actually aging really well. It's great. It's called Fresh Off the Boat. Do you know that one?
I've heard of it. Is it foreigners that?
It's created and directed by this guy called Eddie Huang.
Okay.
And he is, I think, a Chinese immigrant family that is in the
US.
States.
Yeah.
And it's really a really amazingly well written series about just how a Chinese family is integrating and rubbing against the U.S. and culturally infusing themselves into it. Eddie Huang is an amazing guy.
Okay.
And he takes a lot of like stereotypical things in there. And his mom, for instance, she does not, like, art school is just wasting time.
Yeah.
Like creativity, like how are you going to live on that? That is complete waste of time. Like, no. And I just think, like, culturally there's something to that. Like here, like if you're an Asian household and if someone in the kid wants to pursue sports, I don't think you're gonna get as encouraged in that pursuit here compared to in other places, because if you go by the numbers, if you go by pure logic, you should be going to university. But then at the same time, not everyone can be a really good university student. Like, we need, like, we need cleaners. We need everyone, right?
Yeah, we need variety.
And sometimes, like, you just, it's difficult as a parent to face the fact that your kid is more suited for something other than what you had envisioned for them.
Yeah.
And now I'm just thinking, just fleeting thoughts. I really admire my parents' ability to allow me to figure that path out for myself, because they have had all kinds of suggestions and ideas for me to pursue in life, but they ultimately just Even though maybe
Interesting.
in the beginning they didn't believe in it or didn't see it or whatever, just like, okay, he just wants to play with his camera, do something. I got the space to do that, and I think I owe my parents a lot for
Their
giving me
freedom.
that flexibility and finding that. I don't, in many places and culturally, there isn't space for that, and I understand that.
Do you think that's because inherently, just because of the nature of the little island that you grew up on, it's a little bit more pioneering, a little bit more creative, a little bit more on the edge of things?
I think also just my parents, I'm the youngest, so they've been through
So they didn't
two
care about
boys, way older, so it doesn't really matter. Exactly.
Yeah, we've got our success stories.
Like,
It doesn't matter about you.
These guys work for the government, stable. This guy can do whatever. Like, we've done our job. Track record is fine. 2 out of 3. We're good.
We're settled. I'm sure that's not true at all.
No, but I think they just, I don't know, they just understood that, like, being too strict and too fixed is not good. So, like, maybe they just, I felt like a distinct point. I think I was 14 or something, where my dad was really on me in terms of like studying and making sure I was doing everything, all of my duties. And I could feel like a real clear point where there was like a decision, like, okay, now I'm stepping back.
Interesting.
Now it's your turn.
And did he communicate that to you, or
No.
did you just sense
I
it?
just felt it. He was there if I
Interesting.
needed the help, but he didn't how do you talk? How do you say
Initiate
it?
or
He-
engage,
Yeah,
yeah.
he didn't initiate it or engage or check.
Have you ever talked to him about that?
No.
Be interesting to see what his thought process was.
Yeah.
Was it conscious? Was it just like, was he fed up? Or was he like, no, if I push him too much, he's going to rebel? Because you can push. I think everyone's got some limit that if you push too far, then you break that.
Yeah. I'm actually curious now that you mention
Yeah.
it. I should ask him next time I speak to him.
I'd love to hear what his angle on that was.
Yeah. No, but it's actually, when you think about it, it's a good thing, like to give people responsibility, not too much that they can't handle it, and not too little so they don't have to be responsible for anything. It's like a really fine balance act.
Yeah.
But maybe that was like a threshold that he just decided, or they
This is the
collectively decided, okay, from now on, now it's his thing. He needs to take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, inevitably for every one of us, that moment's going to come. Even if your mom is still pestering you when you're 30 years old, she's going to die. Like that point is coming, whether you like it or not. And so I think a good parent realizes that and gives their kid the best base, but understands that it's just a base. It's not the pinnacle. And then has to give out more rope. That's interesting, man. I'd love to hear what your dad's perspective on that. What was that a conscious thing? Because I know some people who are in their mid-30s and the mother's still the boss. I think it's so inhibiting. And that the people in that situation, every decision is run through mom, and it's approving of her, and it's just a very difficult, it's a very sad thing. But not even conscious. Everyone's playing that same game like they're on the same team. But it's devastating. They don't even know it.
I think it's probably bad when like there's too much of that element, and there's
Yeah.
also really bad when it's too little of it, when your parents just seemingly, or even in some cases, actually don't care.
Yeah.
So I think, like, it's a balance act, right? You
Yeah.
need a little bit of both.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think if you are a loving parent, you are consciously trying to play with that leash to see how much you should give. And then I think it's different for everybody. So maybe your brother's got a different deal because they had different personalities. Maybe it was just the pecking order,
Yeah. Or just like individuals are different as well. I mean, I'm sure there is a varying degree in, for instance, your household to your brothers, what your parents needed to do more for you than Jaden or
Yeah.
Seamus, right? It depends a little bit on the individual.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't have to do anything for me. I was the perfect child.
Born perfect.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, I think we need those creative elements. And last week was such a joy to be able to experience your creative process under highly, especially on the Wednesday, highly pressured situations. And I don't know if you're allowed to show any of those photos, but
if I want to be 100% professional, I shouldn't,
You shouldn't.
showcase anything unless they have published it themselves first.
okay.
Only then.
And then, so is that normal that you would have the right to show that in your portfolio or somewhere once they're published? Or
So-
could they say, listen, these are our photos, you can touch them?
Automatically, just straight from the get-go, the copyright is mine.
Oh,
Unless I sign it away, unless the client buys the copyright and requires like full control of the content.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's just like a piece of music that you can write.
because you
It's-
created that art.
It's uniquely something you created. People can lease it or use it under the specific terms, but like you own it for 70 years or whatever the universal
Didn't
copyright
know that.
thing
Okay.
is.
Unless you're employed by them and then you're working for the company.
Then maybe they own the copyright, but then
Okay.
you have to, like, as the creator, you have to have a contract. You have to sign it away.
Okay.
Automatically it's yours unless specifically you sign it away.
And then you're charging for that.
I do. Yeah.
I'm sure if you give away the
Yeah.
rights to.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, in advertising, a lot of the times, let's say you have a successful advertising campaign and the pictures get used for whatever purpose was intended, but you did such a great job that they want to use it again like a season or two later. Then they have to pay you for licensing it again.
Interesting.
And it's a good thing. It's encouragement, because if you do such a good piece of job
And they want to recycle.
that they don't have to shoot again with you or someone else, then you created a great value for them.
Yeah.
So it's fair.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And I never thought about that component. It's because I don't create anything. But it makes sense. It makes sense now that you say it.
I had like this case for I was working for this MMA organization in China, and I loved working for them. It's my, like, I know I'm really into MMA, as you know, and I got to be cage side to taking pictures of every fight. I was like sitting above the cage, like perfect seat, like throughout the whole
I had
night.
no idea.
And then I was taking poster pictures for their, like, I don't know, before, like, you know, every fight they had like posters with like, you know, studio pictures that I had taken. I really truly enjoyed it.
You were literally cage side.
Yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. But I got an opportunity. Like, I moved here to Hong Kong, and they're also signed a little bit before then. They started using some other photographers, which makes sense. They don't want to heavily rely just on this one person.
Yeah.
So I understood it, but I was a little bit hurt by it. But then I just, you know, thought to myself, I got an opportunity to have published some photos from that for Vice. And it was a really nice opportunity for me to have like a Vice on the client list and have such a cool publication, showcase my work. But I underestimated a little bit the circumstances of how the article was written. So it was very, very, very critical. I thought just any publicity is good publicity, but
Yeah.
it was really hurt some people. And I just was young and inexperienced, and I honestly, I did make the right decision, because I was then grouped with this perspective and grouped with this highly critical view on the situation. And I kind of regret it now, because I didn't even ask for that much money. I just got a little bit for it. It was about the publication. It was about getting my work there. But I was a little bit too eager, and maybe I was also a little bit hurt by them, you know, using some other people. But then the guy, I think he was trying to hurt me back or something, but he came to the same illegality. He understood, like, oh, okay, he actually owns the work, and he can do with it what he pleases.
Wow.
So I have actually zero leverage on this guy.
Wow.
Zero. But still, I regret it. Even though I did nothing legally wrong, even though I was like, everything was fine, I still, because it was a really great period of time. I really thoroughly enjoyed everyone that I worked with, and it was an awesome opportunity all around. But that was a learning lesson for me.
Did that end your relationship with them, or did it fizzle out after that?
It was kind of ended just because I had moved from Shanghai to here.
Already it was ended. Okay.
But we hashed it out.
Okay.
The guy that was over the organization, he's passed away now. But we did have correspondence over just messages, and he was just like, "Why did you do that?" Like, and I think we came to an understanding. Like, you know, we hashed it out like kind of just immediately. So
wow.
everything's good, but it was a really rough learning experience for me, because some of the people that I was working with there, just like, you know, the timekeep or referee in the fights, they were like,
You sold us.
why?
Yeah.
But like, you know, they're my friends. They were people that I was hanging out with on Sundays and watching fights.
That's tough.
It's a life lesson.
Yeah.
It's a life lesson. Now, like, you know, I have that experience to pull from. So if I have an opportunity to do things differently, now I have that perspective to build on. Have you ever done anything that you like, you know, I should have handled that differently, or you feel like you've mismanaged some things?
I've never been such a terrible person as you were.
Of course,
Can't believe you did that.
you're a kind person. You're not an asshole.
No, I make mistakes all the time, and I hate it when whatever my actions are that someone else has been hurt. I hate it, and yeah, I can't remember something specifically that was like that because I'm not in the creative thing. But you know, even in the last couple of years, I've just realized it's not even the way that you talk about someone. It doesn't feel good to talk about people negatively, and so I try. I'm not perfect, but I try and manage that better. And but I'm of the mindset that if someone does you wrong, just like avoid that person. Don't let them do wrong by you again. But don't try and get back at them. It's just not worth. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the bitterness that you then have to carry. So I try as best as possible to just create distance from those sort of people. And if I see a new person who looks like that person who hurt me, I'm pretty conservative. Obviously, you can't judge a book by its cover, but I'm just conservative. But yeah, I don't think I've actually hurt my career or anything like that. I've had people lie to me and steal from me, like just blatantly. And I will just go, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, and just leave it. And then I just won't do business with them again. But yeah, I don't like to get involved in those sort of things.
You know what? That's a really, really healthy perspective. And it's a really strong position.
I don't know if it's healthy.
It's like you can filter reality, and you can filter your thoughts and what you engage with. You have control to do that. And you just decide not to deal with shitty people and shitty situation. You just disengage.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like it's a weakness, because then I'll choose not to engage with something that could potentially be good, but I won't say something or address something specific. So I'll just avoid the whole situation completely, but there could be value that's left on the table for them or me or everyone. And then, but because I'm being conservative, I just miss out. So I'm not entirely sure that I'm right. I'm just being honest with the way that I think. Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is.
I have 100% the same perspective. The way I try to package it for me, I don't know if it works for you, is that just like, I'm willing to take a chance here. And maybe, like, you know, we haven't built enough trust, but I'm going to put myself here. And maybe I'm going to get slapped.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay.
And you've accepted that consequence.
Yeah. But I don't want to, like, I want to be able to take the chance. I'm willing to take the chance,
right,
and try things.
Yes.
Knowing that I might get burnt. And the way that I look at it is just like, you're going to lose out. If you burn me, ultimately with time, you will lose out, because I got something to give.
I wonder, I agree with you. That's what I do the same thing. But I wonder, some people are able to make so many more minor adjustments en route. So they'll call someone out on the first little piece of bullshit, the first thing that's said wrong. And then they'll keep on constantly engaging. And sometimes they can get to a resolution, even though it's bumpy. They'll get to the point that they were trying to get to. Whereas me, I know what I would have done is got to the first hurdle and then withdrawn. And I never get anywhere. So I think it's an easier life. I feel better about it, but I don't know if it extracts the most value from all situations. I don't know. I'm not advocating that because it's not how I live. But that's what other people who say, Sean, why don't you say this? Why don't you do that? Well, you should have said. When I don't do any of those things, that's the accusation or the criticism that comes my way. And I wonder if that criticism is correct.
But then at the same time, we're all grown people. You're dealing with a grown person. And are you going to point out something shitty they did? They're a grown person.
The problem is I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I know the critics don't agree with that.
No, but
They would go, well, people aren't all grown. They're immature in this area and they need to know. And sometimes they're unconscious. And I think, well, no, if you're an adult, you should know this. But the argument against that is, no, well, they don't know. So you got to tell them. Do I even want to be engaged with people like that?
they have a chance to feel, oh, there's like he disengaged or he pulled back or things have changed a little bit. I wonder if this has something to do with me. The other party has a chance to ask, hey, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?
Do you think people are that conscious?
Most people aren't.
Most people are just sort of bumbling through life, I think.
Right.
I'm sure there's areas that I bumble too. But in areas that I'm passionate about, I'm trying to be as conscious as possible. I just don't think most people are like that. The only reason I present that counter argument to you is because there's been a conflict in the business and because of the family. We've been trying to engage certain things. And I'm like, oh, no, they're not interested. And they're like, well, no, they are interested. You just haven't said. It was like, why should I say? They should know. And that's my position, the same as yours. And then they go, no, but of course, how could they know? They're just trying to do the best that they can, but they don't realize this, and they don't realize, well, then I don't want to do business with them because they should realize. And I get all proud. So I don't know. I haven't worked all of that out. I would just create distance.
I hear you, but that's a signal that they're sending, like their priority and what they're doing, you're too low there. You position yourself higher, and if they are not thinking about it, deeply enough, then you are not important enough to them. So why if this is not important to them, why are we even doing this? Like, you prefer to do things the right way. You prefer to be methodical. And if you're engaging with someone else who is not, what are we even doing here?
See, E.G., the problem is I agree with you 100%. I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I agree with you. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. My question then becomes, assuming that you're right, that we're right, then you have to settle, because then you can't expand and grow and take hold of something that's a little bit bigger or a bit different, because then you don't have the team. And part of the team element, I think, and because I haven't navigated this, I don't know, I'm just guessing, is to grow and develop the team so that they do ask the questions, they do think about it. And that I'm useless at. I don't know how to do that. I've read books and watched the videos and all the rest. I still haven't put my hands on it. And so that's the counter argument, that I leave the door open to say, okay, I like my way of life, and I agree with you, and I think people should know. And if they don't know, that's on them. But then the other element is, okay, well, then you're extremely limited. And then, so I'm like, okay, well, let me question, how do I engage those sort of people? And I think that engagement is coaching, correcting, I think.
Yeah.
But I can't say for certain. Most of my engagement with people is because they really want it and they're hungry. I almost never will enforce or push myself on anything. I always wait for the invite. I'll almost never invite myself. But I don't know if that's the right thing or not.
One thing here is that if your gut tells you something, it's telling you, you're just like a deep sense for the situation is that this is what your gut is telling you, for a lack of a better expression.
Yes.
Like your feeling for the situation is that this is the right thing to do and this is the way how to do it.
Yes.
If you're not listening to, if you're not tuned into your instincts, then you can't trust them. If you're like going against them every now and again, if you always go with your instincts and just trust your instincts, your spider senses.
Yeah.
Then you develop and you get a better sense for them because you lean on them.
Yeah.
Instead of just referring to someone else's decisions or
True.
or going with something that you even don't agree with, but everyone else says it's good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing to learn to trust your gut on decision making sometimes, because then you have that. I think a lot of people don't dare to go by feelings.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's just when you're trying to navigate that with those people who have different confidence levels in their spidey senses. I like that, and their engagement with others on the interfaces of those feelings. It's just how do you engage that team to think in a certain way? And I think this is really a guess. I really don't know. I think the default that we have of that withdrawal, and well, if you don't want this, then it's on you. I think that's a limiting factor. I think. But it's a great protective agent, and it's a great way to govern your life. But my guess now, being as ancient as I am, as we are equally old, I'm just reassessing that. But I can't say that I've been on the other side of that, because I've developed that as my spidey sense.
Right.
But now I'm just reassessing it. I'm saying, should it be this way?
I understand. You feel like there are things left on the table that could have been engaged or approached, or given a little bit more time or something.
Yeah,
I understand.
Well, think about it in the most simple sense in terms of relationship. In a marriage, if the wife is continually frustrated with the water on the floor from the shower, with the way that the husband says this thing, or whatever the thing is for that context, and she never says anything, she could very easily argue, oh, it's because he doesn't care. But maybe he's an idiot and he never realized that the thing that he's doing is idiotic. And so the second she says, oi, idiot, this irritates me, he could quite simply go, oh, I didn't even know I was doing that. Oh, I'm sorry. And then he changes, and now that situation changes.
Right.
Whereas I'm the guy who goes, why didn't she? Oh, she hates me. Oh, she hates me. When she doesn't even know. You know what I'm saying?
I hear
so
you.
I'm assessing those things, that communication thing that we also, you must communicate, which I'm so bad at it. I'm assessing, okay, if you take that little simple example of a marriage, apply that to teams or creative processes.
More complicated situation.
Maybe my reserved withdrawal default is a hindrance. And maybe there are ways that's still a hard line. Like if someone really has set, you're not valuable, or I'm going to abuse you, or whatever it is, that's still, the line's still there. But maybe before the line, there's some blurred edges or some more softness to re-navigating that by communication.
You're right. You're right.
I don't know if I'm right. I'm just presenting it. I'm presenting devil's advocate argument in my mind.
I think also just we're very, very similar in this regard.
Yeah,
definitely. And we've come to this point, and we've been successful to degree to this point.
That's right.
So one thing is we could decide to just keep on going the same way.
Yes.
Or we could have theories on maybe I could try this and change that. And I think that's an excellent theory for, I also take it to myself, something that I could work on.
This is exactly what we were saying a little bit earlier in terms of that creative assessing, is the crowd right? Mm-hmm. In some sense, we are the crowd saying, this methodology works for us and it's brought us our success. How dare you question it? And that little 10% creative goes, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you need to relook at this.
Right.
And so by reassessing it, we're probably wrong in the reassessment, but it's worth it. It's worth it because 1 out of 100 occasions, it's going to be the right call.
You got to throw out some theories out there to improve. Otherwise, we just stop. We just start to decline immediately if you're not trying to improve. Yeah. It's funny. Like stability is not built into us. The whole economy is built on growth.
Wow. Yeah.
Our skill set, we were always looking to improve and build and add. Always.
Yes.
It's not like this level playing field. Just that
once you get there, you sit. Yeah.
Doesn't exist for humans.
I agree. Yeah. Entropy is a powerful force, so you need to overcome that with growth.
Entropy.
Entropy.
What is that word?
The basic way that you learn entropy at school is you have a pool table and you have all the pool balls set up perfectly, that's the most perfect energy efficient. You got the highest level of energy. The second you start playing pool, chaos starts to create movement, and everything becomes less and less ordered. So at an energy level, you could have a perfect system, but over time, it becomes less and less perfect. And so you need more energy into the system to bring it back up to where it could be. So entropy is that slow decay of energy.
I didn't fully understand that. I'm gonna have to listen to that a few more times, but that sounds really smart and interesting.
So
I'm dumb. You explained it really well. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No, you're not dumb. No, I've just done a bad job. No, it's just the decay of time. For example, you have a perfect room that you set up. It's perfectly clean.
Right.
Everything is in order, and then you change your clothes. Now it's in less ordered state because you got some mess. Dust starts to settle.
Right.
The bit of rust sets in. That's entropy.
Oh, okay,
it's just the most perfect level you have. Time will eventually just make that decay.
Like aging.
Yeah, a little bit like aging. Yeah. So you need to inject energy somehow. So what you're saying about growth, it's not built into us. I agree with. We need energy put into us.
Right.
Otherwise, you die.
Yeah.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for physics.
No. It's interesting. It's just like a word and a concept that I'm just like, I didn't go to school for maths or things that you did. It's literally new to me.
I always use that concept in business because a lot of people get to a point where they go, we're set now, we've done that, tick the box. And my personal perspective is you should always be improving. And which is why what you said, engage that thought, is because if you just set things and go, okay, well, no, we're done. Over time, it gets dusty and old and systems die and you need to update this thing and that person gets bored and they miss the checking this box and a client gets a little bit stale. Nothing's wrong, but it's just a little stale. And so you got to constantly be improving and trying out new things and throwing things at the wall. And that's entropy.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna Google that word and look into it further. I want to add this to my repertoire. When I need to look smart, I could throw this word out there and have like an explanation, just like it did.
If you need to look smart, just get your photos out, and people will be very impressed.
I don't think that's a smart thing.
No, I think it is. E.G., that's great, man. Thank you.
Good one. Thank you, man. Oh, wow, an hour and a half.